Let's now start with lesson 2.1, that is outline the benefits and limitations of various data models in the Snowflake account. First up, we will be covering data models and then we will be covering the use of key and column constraints. Those are enable, rely and validate. Let's discuss about very interesting topic, that is data vault. Think of it as data vault is like a set of super smart building blocks designed specifically for holding your data. Okay, and these blocks are not just for building any old structure, they help you create an organized, easy to understand and super flexible data that can grow and change as much as you need it. Okay, it is completely super flexible way to create, organize, and store your data. If I go to the definition, Data Vault is a agile, scalable model method for enterprise data warehouse designed to handle large scale historical data integration from multiple sources. It uses a hub and spoke structure. Okay, this structure have three core components. That those are hubs, links, and satellites. We will come into that one by one in 1 minute or so. To separate business key from descriptive context, okay, allowing for easy incremental updates without disrupting your existing data structure. So this is really cool. It is a very flexible way to have your data structured. Okay, it consists of three core components, and as you just listened that it uses a hub and spoke structure, which obviously consists of three core components. The first one is hub. Think of a hub as the main landmark for your data city. It's the central point for everything related to a specific business concepts. Imagine we have a hub for customer. Okay, this hub only stores the unique ID. Okay, it don't store anything else than unique IDs, maybe their names. Okay, it's like the city hall for your customer data. Okay, so as the definition say, hubs are only used to store the unique business keys. Okay, and next one we have links. Links are like roads and bridges connecting all the different hubs together. Okay. If we have a hub for customer and we have another hub for product, okay, a link block would connect them to show that a specific customer bought a specific product, right? It is a connection between multiple hubs. Okay. It's like a highway connecting the customer to the product warehouse. Cool. Lastly, we have satellites. Satellites are like the buildings that hold all the detailed information. Imagine customer hall has many floors. Okay. Each floor represents a different satellite. One satellite might hold the customer address, and even another might store their contact information or other information, and another might track even their preferences. So, this is hub, links, and satellites, where hubs are used to store the business keys. Links are used to represent the relationships between the multiple hubs, and satellites store the descriptive time variant information about all the hubs and links. If I talk about the key benefits, the biggest benefit for Data Vault is scalability. It is very efficient to manage even petabytes of data because we just need to create the hub, link, and satellite, and we just connect the dots, and our work is done. It is very flexible as self-explanatory because we can easily adapt all the business requirements and even the new requirements very easily. It is very good for auditability. It provides a complete historical, immutable records of data, and it is really a good example of automation. Let's discuss about two of the most common database schema types for organizing analytical data, that is star schema and Snowflake schema. What is star schema? A star schema is a way of structuring your data to make it easy to understand and fast to query, especially for reporting and dashboard uses. So at the center, we have a fact table, okay, which contains all the measurable business data like sales, clicks, revenue, inventory changes, etc. Around it, we are having the dimension tables that add the context to each fact, right? So if you see, the dimension tables are not having any kind of sub dimension table. So these are denormalized, okay? Meaning it stores all the descriptive information in one place only instead of defining more subcategories, right? So it is storing all the information in one place, and this makes this kind of schema as star schema. When it's come to performance, it is very, very fast, and it is very optimized for reporting and dashboard use case purposes. Okay. Now let's discuss about Snowflake schema. Snowflake schema use the same basic concept as a central fact table connected to dimension table, but but with more structure. Okay. It means we are normalizing the dimensions. Okay. In Snowflake schema, dimensions are normalized, meaning they are broken down into subtables. If you see here, dim customer is further broken down into two more dimension tables: dim customer city, dim customer country, right? Same way, other dimensions are also broken down into other subtables. Okay. So it actually creates a hierarchical model which is very, you know, hard to maintain, and it is not optimized for performance. But it still is very useful because it is reducing the redundancy across your data. So Snowflake schema is very best for that. It is known for reducing your redundancy, and it normalizes your data. Cool. Let's now discuss about the difference between star and Snowflake schema. So if I talk about the structure, a star schema stores all the related dimensional data into a single denormalized table where product name, category, and brands all sit together. We just seen that. While the Snowflake schema splits the same data across normalized tables. Okay, it divides the data into more sub tables. Like for one for product, we will be having other tables like product category, product brand as sub tables, right? This makes the star schema flatter and easier to query, while the Snowflake schema more accurately reflects the real world hierarchies. Okay. And next is ease to design. A star schema is very easier and faster to design because it avoids any kind of normalization, and you create the fact table with the few dimension table. This is very straightforward. And but while in Snowflake schema, it requires more forethought. Defining hierarchies is very important here. You need to normalize the data, and splitting dimension into subtables is also very important. And also you need to maintain the relationships between those tables as well. So that makes a star schema a good fit for ad hoc reporting, while Snowflake still works better for long term structuring, right? You notice things, right? You notice this, right? Snowflake schema is focused on structuring the things. Okay. So it actually increases the reusability of the tables as well, right? Now let's talk about the query speed. Obviously, star schema often run faster because we are having fewer joins to make. Okay, and it is a big win for your large data sets. While the Snowflake schema introduce more joins, as we are having more hierarchical tables, so more joins, more normalized tables, more joins. We know that. So which actually slows down the performance unless it is very well optimized. Okay. That said, there is another out of context point. Nowadays, even cloud data warehouses are very intelligent, and they are having a very intelligent query plannings like Snowflake and BigQuery have. And anyway, this performance gap is narrowing down now, but it will still take a couple of years to really narrow down to the level of star schema, but it's work in progress from many big companies. Fourth is storage. A star schema duplicates data, obviously, because we are storing all the information in a single table, and we are repeating multiple rows here. So it will obviously take the more storage. Okay, because we are having duplicate data in the same table, but in Snowflake schema stores the unique value only once, because we are reducing the duplication and actually saving the space. Okay. That actually translates to lower cost in cloud environment where storage also adds up, right? So this is the perk in favor of Snowflake schema. If I talk about updates, so a star schema can make updates painful. Changing a category name might mean updating thousands of rows because we are having duplicate data. So updating star schema is very, very painful, guys. Okay. But when it's come to Snowflake schema, you just need to update a single entity in the related dimensional table and you are done. So that is something which is very, very efficient when it's come to updating the data. Okay. And last point is debugging. A star schema can obscure the data lineage since values are obviously packed into a single table. So debugging is not going to be an easy task here. But in Snowflake schema, it keeps the relationships very clear, and that makes it easier to track issues or audit the data. Okay. This clarity is crucial in industries with the strict compliance or data governance needs, as you know, right? So this is the pretty much about star schema and Snowflake schema. There are pros and cons for each and every of these things, but majorly star schema is denormalized and Snowflake schema is normalized. When it's come to performance, star schema will give better performance and Snowflake schema will lag. But now this gap is also narrowing out. This is still out of context, but you should know that this process is also going on. Okay. Storage, star schema will be more costlier compared to Snowflake schema. Okay. And update is really very painful in star schema, guys. Really very painful. Okay. But in Snowflake schema, it is very, very easy. Just go to the related table and update it on the one entry and you are done and dusted. Okay. That's pretty much about star and Snowflake schema. Let's now discuss about use of key or column constraints. In Snowflake, key and column constraints on standard tables such as primary key, unique key, and foreign key are largely not enforced. Instead, they serve as a metadata for data modeling and query optimization. The properties like enable, which is used for metadata, rely, which is designed for Snowflake query optimizer, and validate, which check the existence of data, control how Snowflake treats these constraints. To be very honest, these constraints exist, enable, rely, and validate, but they are really not enforced, and no one is strictly enforced by Snowflake. Okay. But you should know where you need to use them and where you don't need to use them. Okay. By default, Snowflake don't enforce them. It's up to the business use case. If we discuss about constraint properties, first is enable and disable. It specifies whether the constraint is active as a metadata or not. For standard tables, even when enable is set, Snowflake does not enforce the constraint, as we had just discussed, right? For check constraints, enable is the default and required. Disable is not supported for the check constraints. Next up is rely or no rely. Rely tells the Snowflake query optimizer that it can trust the data adherence to the constraints even though Snowflake is not enforcing it. It enables performance optimizations like join elimination, whether the optimizer removes the unnecessary joins if the result can be determined from a one table alone. If you set rely but the data violates the constraint, the query may return incorrect or unexpected result. This is the warning provided by Snowflake. Last up is validate or no validate. These determines if the Snowflake should check existing data for compliance when a constraint is created or altered. For standard primary key, unique key, and foreign key constraints, specifying validate is generally not supported for existing tables and is primarily included for syntax compatibility with other databases. For check constraints, validate is the default one for all the new tables and it ensures the existing rows comply before the constraint is applied. With that said, we had covered the lesson 2.1 as well. See you in the next one.